Everyone, welcome to Project Pro. So in this video, we're gonna see how to make your first ML projects. You all might be curious about making your first ML projects with a basic information or with a basic knowledge. Or you all might be wondering how should we make our first ML projects? Is it a big task? So my answer is definitely no. Let's see how we make our first ML project here. So let's find about me first. So my name is Sunidhi Pandey. I'm a machine learning enthusiast and had working here in Ahmedabad right now. As I'm a machine learning enthusiast, have done many projects in data analysis, visualization, machine learning, data science related concepts, reinforcement learning, etc. You can connect me here in GitHub as Sunidhi 2001 and in LinkedIn as Sunidhi Pandey. So let's continue with our discussion about the company. So let me give you a brief introduction about Project Pro as well, as it is a unique platform which helps to solve the real life problems using the projects by step by step. So with this, let's gonna see from with the help of Project Pro that how we make our first ML project. So of course, what we thought would land us in a job, we thought most of the cases in a degree. But what exactly would land us in a job? Most of the percentage here goes to the skills, as you can see. Some to the internship, some to the degree, and the other to the network. So the most profitable thing which we need here is a skills. So for skills, firstly you get to know about the basics of ML. Let's see what we gonna cover in all these things. So firstly we're gonna cover the basic understandings of machine learning, that will be supervised, unsupervised, how we train our data, about the features and labels, as well as we will define a model in machine learning as well. We also gonna see the problem definition, like how we gonna implement our problem in a form of coding. Firstly, we also need to understand the problem and what are its importance as well. We also gonna see the data collection and the preparation. Like if we have a data, it's not need to be a fine data from the beginning. We need to be make it a fine data or clear the data using the pre-processing methods. So we gonna see that as well. After that, we gonna choose a right algorithm to make our machine learning a good and a fine model. Also, we're gonna see what is the meaning of training and testing, how is it important in our model, and how we actually implement it using our codes. We also gonna see the model deployment, where we gonna use so many libraries in the Python, as well as the model training, predictions, and the processing of the data using the classification reports and the confusion matrices. Apart from that, we're gonna see the model evaluation using the fine tuning. The fine tuning here represents the confusion matrix, where we're gonna see the classification matrix as well, accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 score as written over here. And then we're gonna deploy and monitor our whole project in an overall review about the environment, how we make our project in a complete brief. We also gonna share you the best practices and the resources with the help of that GitHub, LinkedIn, and you can approach me if you have any doubt regarding this video. So let's see the machine learning. So this is a basic chart which I made for you guys so you can get a better understanding of how we gonna understand machine learning. So the first question which arises, why machine learning? Definitely most of you people might be wondering why we are using this machine learning. So let's go through an story. We all know the story of Tarzan. Definitely we all know. The Tarzan is a boy who grew up in a village, in a jungle, in a forest, and the girl who he loved apart will live in a city girl. That is a city girl. So in this story, we're gonna see that when the Tarzan firstly gifted a um, plant to girl, she reacted very normally. So she can't get anything from that, like what she really like or not. Apart from that, when he gifted her a snack, he just frightened out. So he get to know that the snack is not a good gift for the girl. Then after he gives the girl a flower, the flower makes the girl happy. put a smile on her face. So he get to know that the flower is definitely part. What exactly happens? He took a bouquet of flowers and put in front of the girl. She definitely liked it, and he get to know from this analysis of these previous experiences that this is how the girl's gonna like the flower. So this is how the machine learning works. Also, if we talk about a machine, so we put some past experiences or the past collection of the data in front of the machines, and put some algorithms depends on the data sets to train the model, and then we implement the results out of what all this. So machine learning is definitely the learning which happens with the help of past experiences to the machines. What are the exactly types of machine learning? So for the types of machine learning, here you can get to see the types of machine learning. We normally have the three types: supervised, unsupervised, and the reinforcement. What the supervised and unsupervised, the merely difference gives. So the major difference between supervised and unsupervised is that the supervised have our output or have our data as a standard data output, but the supervised don't have an output in the starting. Classified data also covered in the supervised machine learning, and supervised is now mainly classified into two formats: the classification and regression. The regression depends on logistic and the linear regression, and the classification for the k-neighbor, random forest, decision tree, and many more. Unsupervised mainly have the clustering format, which means the k-mean clustering. Apart from that, there is also few deeply encoded things, that is dimensionality reductions, principal components of analysis, autoencoders, t-distributions, totally never embedded, and in anonymity detection, one class classification and autoencoder. In the reinforcement is still a part of research, as there is not have any predefined algorithms which are in most of the use in machine learning nowadays. Most of the cases we still use the supervised and unsupervised. In reinforcement, we gonna see the real-time decisions, robot navigations, learning tasks, skills acquisitions, and the game AI. Now let's see what are the major ML process we gonna see in our first ML project during the coding. So for the ML process, this is what we all gonna see there. Firstly, the data collection. So the sources of the data collections might be a large variety. Like you gonna collect your data from that Kaggle. You all might hear about the Kaggle, that is a Google platform which provides the past experiences data and the machine learning or different types of project data as well. Apart from that, you can also go through UCM. UCM is a USA website which go through over so many different parts of the data. And apart from all that, if you don't have any resources particularly to find any data, you just have to put your mind what you need and put it on Google or ChatGPT or whatever you want. You just put there and you get to see your query formats of data. You can choose out the data format which you want to work on. There are two types of data if we goes through any data frame: structured data and unstructured data. Unstructured data definitely have no definition because it is not structured at all. But in structured data, we have few kinds of formats, as nominal or categorical data. We have a different category wise data, A, B, C, D or whatever. Numerical data, that will be integer data or float data like 1.1, 1, 200, 500 something. Ordinal data. Ordinal data is a kind of data which is not particularly defined in a proper format, which is similar like sometimes in a form of object, sometimes in a form of string, sometimes in a form of category as well. Time series data. Time series data contains the data kind of in a form of year, date or month, like Feb 2001. Let's say date like 15th of August 2020, or a month like 5 6 June, July, August, this kind of format time series data. After we get to collect the data, we need the data to be prepared, that needs to be pre-processing. So in data processing, so we gonna see the exploratory data analysis, data pre-processing, and data splitting. What exactly the exploratory data analysis means? So the exploratory data analysis here means by you have to analyze the data in the starting of before training the model. In the analysis part, you can also add data visualization. So in EDA, there are few basic libraries which we can use, like NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, and Seaborn. These are the four basic libraries any person who wants to grow in machine learning must know. After that, we need to pre-process our data. In the pre-processing part, we get to see the data information as well as we get to see the null values if there have any. And we also need to handle that null values before training our data, before splitting our data. After that, we need to split our data. So if we have a data which is more than 10,000 or more than 20,000, which is a big amount, so then we use the ratio of 80-20, means the 80% gets to be trained data and 20% gets to be test data. But if we have the data size less than 10,000 or the data size is not that big, then we use the ratio of 70-30. So here the ratio 70-30 implements that the 30% is for the test size and the 70% is for the train size. After we gone through all this, we need to train our data. So for the training of data, we need to choose our algorithm. Here we have two types of algorithm. We are putting the reinforcement aside as it is not developed right now that much. So for choosing an algorithm, we have two options, supervised and unsupervised. So for all the supervised learning, there will be an output or there will be or standard format which gives an example of solved ML problems. Let's take an example of Titanic data as we further gonna see the project in Titanic. So in Titanic, the main questions which arises, how many people are survived or not. So here we have an output as survived, yes or no. So then we're gonna have to use the supervised algorithm. There are so many kinds of extra supervised algorithm which we see earlier. Apart from that, as SVM, AdaBoost, and neural network, which also called the deep learning. Apart from that supervised algorithm, when we use the unsupervised algorithm, if we don't have any kind of standard output earlier, we just have the data and we need to analyze and predict a model out of it. Let's see if we have a data of Amazon feedbacks or any company feedback. So in this company feedback, we get to see a lot of strings, a lot of objects, a lot of float, integers, a different kind of categories. What I mean is, so here we don't have any particular output out of it all. We don't have any particular format as an output. So here we gonna use the unsupervised algorithms. The unsupervised all algorithms, as we see earlier here. So after we choose an algorithm, we need to overfit our model. What does the overfit our model means by? We have to exactly fit our model, that is not to be the underfit. So underfit models gives you a wide different range of complexity, confusion matrix, and the classification report, which cannot be true at all. So we need to fit the model in a proper range, which can be uh, properly fit or overfit as well. Overfit is a word which is used to perfectly fit for the model. Reduce the overfitting with the regularization. But sometimes what happens when we are trying to fit the model in a proper basis, we get the model to be the overfitted, which is not exactly what the model needs to be. So that shows the precision to be the very much higher, like 99.99, more than 100. That is the kind of complications we get to see when the model gets overfit. So in that condition, we need to normally reduce the overfitting with the regularization as well. This is also the part of training the model. Then after training the model, we need to analyze and evaluate. So in this analyzation evaluation, we have to, after fitting the model, we can create a scatter plot of the prediction and the test. Also we can go through in the deploying of our model. Before deploying, we go through the classification matrices as well as the confusion matrices. What is the exactly classification matrix and confusion matrix? So to get know more about its details, go through the project pro. You definitely know the deployment model in a better way about the classification matrix and confusion matrix. So in the deploying model sections, in when we go through Jupyter notebook, when we are gonna make our project, I will show you how to predict the classification matrices and confusion matrices, where you get to see all this precision, recall, F1 score and accuracy kind of matrices, and then we retrain our model. Then we can ready to, after all these sections, put our model in the market and to analyze the model reviews and the outputs. So this is how the overall machine learning, and these are the tools which we use normally. So when you go through the machine learning, one more thing which I want to share you with all, you go through the tools of machine learning. The first is math. Definitely all these mathematical things we need to know when we are using a machine learning algorithm, or when we are learning about machine learning. Also there are two main programming languages which uses in machine learning. One is Python and second is R. Today, while we are making our first ML projects, we gonna use the Python as our precise and the first programming languages. In the Python, we are gonna particularly use the Jupyter notebook. Definitely all, if you have the basic knowledge of all this, you're gonna make your project much better. So this is a chart for you. I can say a roadmap for machine learning. Go through it all and let's make our first ML project here. First ML project using the Jupyter notebook in Anaconda. Okay. So we all know the story of Titanic. Here we're gonna analyze the Titanic model using the machine learning. So we have to import some basic libraries which we've gone through in the earlier section. For that we have to import NumPy as NP. Here NP represents the NumPy. Same, we have to import pandas as PD. These are the standard short names which we use for the libraries. Samely, we have to also import some visualization libraries like Seaborn and Matplotlib. So firstly, let's import Matplotlib. We here particularly use that PyPlot in Matplotlib as PLT. And apart from that, we have another import Seaborn as SNS. So here we import all our important libraries which we gonna use in making our Titanic model, our first machine learning model here. Apart from that, here we can use our SNS function, which is Seaborn, to import the dataset. For that, we have to do the Titanic dataset is already in my folder of that particular Jupyter notebook. You have to download that from any resources. You just have to write Titanic model or Titanic dataset in Google. You will get through it. Sorry. Now, as we have our data frame, when we go through our data frame, we gonna see the starting and the ending part, and we also get to see that there are 891 rows and 15 columns in our total data sets, where there might be also some null functions or null variables, where there is a blank sheet also. So let's go through the data set one by one. For that, firstly let's check the head. How we gonna check any head of data frame? df.head. So the standard default is we gonna see the starting 5 rows of the data set. If we need to see apart from 5, let's see 7. So here in the brackets, if we write 7, we get to see the 7 rows. Same if we gonna write here 10, so we get to see the starting 10 rows of data set. But if I want to see the default 5 rows, so I just have to write data head. Same with tail. Tail gives the last rows of our data frame. Here also, if we change the numbers here like 3 or something, we're gonna see the exact numbers of last rows from the ending. Now, as we go through the head and tail of the data frame, let's go through the information of the data frame. How we gonna do that? We're gonna do that by writing df dot info. What it gives to us, it gives the number of columns, as you're gonna see here. These are the number of columns which we have. These are the non-null counts. Non-null counts means we have here 891, as we get to see earlier that we have exactly 891 rows. Here 891 are not null, means there is not, they don't have any null values. But here we get to see 740, means there are some null values, so we have to check that null values later. Firstly, let's see how we particularly check the shape of data frame. When we write df.shape, it particularly gives rows into column in a bracket, like 891 rows we have and 15 columns we have. Now let's check null. As we get to see earlier in the info, we have few null values as well. So in which column, where exactly we need to know that to handle it. So dot is null. So if we see that is null function, what does exactly? Is null function in data frame, when we use it, exactly gives the results in boolean form, true, false, like that. So here written true, it means there is a null value here. There is no value or NA or zero kind of value put it here. Where it written false in all these sections, it means there are not have any null value. But for a big data set, we can't go through each of the columns like true and false and counting them manually. So for that, we just have to write here dot sum. Here we get to see that in that particular age column we have 177 null function. For depth we have 688 null, and in markdown there are 2 null values we have. So let's see each of the data types and manage some common functions for ML, like analyzing, how we gonna analyze all these things. And so for checking any kind of columns in which format it have in data frame, for that we have to write df colon age dot d type. What it gives the value as float. So we get to see that the age is written over there in our data frame as float, in the form of float. We also get to see this in that info, but for the particular column we get to see using that d type function. And if wanna check that particular column apart from overall null value in data frame, so we also get to see using is null in the same pattern. But we don't want to see in boolean, so we have to sum it up. Here as written, there are 177 exactly numbers. So as we have 177, means how many have we filled? 891 we total have. 891 we total have, and now we want to confirm that we have 877, means we have total 714 filled values there in the particular age column. Also, when we go through that is null function, we can visualize that is null using sns dot hit map. What it does, it creates a map using all the columns and rows to get us see how we analyze our problems. This kind of SNS hit map we get when we are using is null function. So in particular column we get to see that deck we have a lot of null values. In age we have a bit less null values as compared to deck, and there is also a null value in embark and in embark town. So this is how our is null function with heat map goes. So when we are dealing with age, deck, this kind of columns to handle the null functions or null values in each section, how we gonna do that? We have to analyze, we have to manage everything. How we gonna do? So for that we just have to take the median of age. When we take the median of age, we get to see the median of age is 28. So let's put it in a age value. So we gonna further use it. Here we again use the fill function using what does is at it exactly mean. So here df age means we are using the age column dot fill na. So fill na, what exactly does fill na exactly? Let us know that we have to fill that particular column. If you search fill na, you get much better understanding, or go through the another videos particularly for the value separations and the fill na function. You get to see a better experience there. So here we are using that fill na function. Value is equal to gap, the gap value which we put here, and in place true. In place true, actually the particularly data frame have the in place as default false. So we have to change that using in place true. After we run, let's see how many null values we have in our data frame now. So we have closed that age null values all. Again, we're going to see the plot. There is no age null value as see in a graph. After that, we same do with deck, but as the deck is the data type of, look here, as the data type of deck is written over there as a category. Category type means it uses the string and the objects. So we can't do the mean, mode, mean or median for it. We have to use particularly mode. So same we done with mode using deck. Run, we get to see we fill another column of our null values. But how we gonna write here C or 0? What this 0 represents here? The value deck has so many categories. So to find the particular categories which able to fill NA functions and in place it, we get to see that df tag mode. Here df tag mode is C. And what C represents? 0. That's why we write here 0. In most of the cases, 0 represents the first values of mode. But in few cases which are random or which are value rare, we get to see there are 1 which represents that mode. So for that, firstly we have to see that. Then we have to write it in first place. After that, let's go through the embark, and here I prepare few questions for you all to analyze the Titanic dataset in much better way. There are 3 questions we have. How many people survived in Titanic? How many survived are male and female? How many female passengers are solo travel? So let's go through each of these questions one by one. For that, firstly, how many people since survived in Titanic? We get to see that info that we have a column survived, and in that survived particular, if there is written 1 over there, that means survived. If there is written 0 over there, that means not survived. So we just have to count it all. This is the functions which we use here, or this is the statement which we use to count that particular question. So this is the answer of the first questions. What is exactly do? df survived is equal to 1. Double equal to 1 means it compares your survived column with 1, and in that particular survived column it counts the total numbers, and after that we get to see that the total numbers are 342, means there are 342 people in that overall 891 which are survived in the Titanic. How we gonna we have to now put a graph to represents the survived of male and female. So as we're gonna see that we have total 342 people survived. So using this, we get to see how many female and how many male exactly survived. 0 means not survived, 1 means survived. In 1 exactly, there are 200 plus female and 100 plus male approx which are survived. So what we do, we use the SNS function, means cbon dot count plot. Count plot uses to count the numbers and plot accordingly. X is equal to survived. Here survived is the data frame of survived column. This hue is equal to sex particularly gives us the sections through which we differ the survived count plot as male and female. Here as we have sex column has two parts, male and female, and particularly data is equal to DF. After we run this, we have to another calculate, just a sec. Yeah. So after we run this, we have to another calculate how many female passengers are solo travel. So for solo travel, let's see the data frame again. So when we see the data frame, we get to see that firstly we have to manage that sex column, which must be female for calculating the solo female passengers. After that, we have here sibling separate. So we need that sibling is equal to 0. Why? Because we don't need any sibling. Otherwise, how we get to know that the passenger is solo? As well as we need that total passenger parent child. So this also need to be 0. So let's compare all sex, sibling and parch column together. How we do that? We're gonna use this statement there. DF is equal to DF sex is equal to female, means the sex needs to be female, and means the another condition which we put here, that is DF is equal to sibling is equal to 0 and DF parch is equal to 0 as well. If it satisfies all the three conditions, then that 126 females here are seems to be the solo passengers which are female. Now we have to change the categorical values into the numerical values. How we gonna do that? Let's see. We another get to see the info to manage the columns and to get see the proper df functions. After that, we just have to df sex dot n unique. What is that n unique does? The unique function gives the variety which that particular column has, and the n unique count that number of unique, that is 2. For this, we mostly, if we have to create some dummy variables, we just get to use that pandas function dot get dummy. So pd that dummies, that is, and for the same we also use the feature engineering. If you search out the feature engineering part, it will show you that feature engineering is used to demonstrate a model using also to get dummies using different functions. The main are one hot encoding, nominal encoding, and the ordinal encoding. It's not just three of them. There are so many more engineering feature engineering there out, but these three are the most common and the most usable formats of the feature engineering. Let's get the get dummies part from the sex and change it according to what we want. Sex is equal to pd dot get dummies df sex dot first. Drop first means gives the same word default function is false, so we have to drop first is equal to true here. Then we're gonna see that sex, it gives the fulfillment of this all total, and if we check again the info, see the sex section is now an object and not null is totally filled out here. Same we do it with embark. Embark has three different functions. Drop first. Now what we have to do, we have to concatenate and import all these functions which we make into one. So for that, firstly we here get two different get dummies in embark and age. Then we have to concatenate this embark and age in the data frame. What we do, we just write the pd, that is using the pandas function dot concatenate. Concatenate exactly adds that two different data frame with that particular column. Here you get to see that this embark is not from the previous embark here. That SC is not from the previous embark there. As well as same in the sex column, we get to see 0 1 0 1 0 1. Here 1 represents male and 0 represents the female. Same we do with the extra columns. And we gonna do that same with the deck as well. So in deck dot and unique, so the get dummy function do, as we know that we can't do the analysis while we are having this kind of first second third woman man first true false and that embarked on names right in here. So we need to change all of this into the form of numbers. Get dummy function exactly gives that numbers to us. What exactly it do here, as we having sex, so sex directly have two numbers, two different and unique values, male and female. It directly turn it into 0 and 1. But when we have more than two values, as we see in embark, here we have three values. So what it does, it represents in the form of two columns, sq and as 0 and 1. Here 0 1 represents the different value, 0 0 represents the different value, and the 1 0 represents the different value. So three different values are used to classify that get dummies function when we are changing the object or strings in numbers. So this all we have to do with all the kind of the columns which we have. After that, what we need to do, as we check the columns, we have to do each of the get dummy function for the feature engineering process in each of the data frame columns. We are taking one by one column at a time. Let's say class we take. So we same do the get dummy in class. Get to see the class as class has also the second third as 0 1 1 0 form. In who column, we also need to check the get dummy as it is in the form of man woman, and we can't get to manage this when we are doing that ML project. We have to go through the get dummy feature engineering in all the columns. We are doing the same. You can practice it on your own. You will get to know a lot about it. When you write the same code in your notebook, you get to learn a lot more than this video. With the help of this video, definitely. We are doing the same with each of this eat down, alive, alone. And then as we have changed all the columns, you get to see above, we need to concatenate it as we do last time when we are practicing it. So now we can add all this in a one time. You can also do all the columns in a one time or separately as you want. It depends on your strategy and your psychology. Then drop the original columns as we have involved our columns in that. After drop, when we see the charts, we see there are a lot of charts, as we get to see the embark has two, the same the deck has two, and the difference have more than one columns. And if we get to see the df dot head, we see there all are numbers. Now we can put our machine learning here when we don't need any objects to convert in numbers. So what we exactly do, firstly we go through the data sets, we import all the libraries, check our data sets, check the null functions, convert that null functions into drop that null functions or convert that null functions. After that we check we have how many columns as numbers and objects, strings, categories, floats in a different formats. We need only numbers like floats and uh, integers. So we directly use the get dummy functions for all the non-null values. After that we check our head. After concatenation and leaving all the other columns, we get to see this kind of data frame we have. Now we come into the main part of our machine learning, which is test train split. So in the test train split, firstly we have to convert our data set into two formats, which can be either in the ratio of 70-30 or in the ratio of 80-20. It depends totally on the amount of the data sets we have. In the most of the cases, we use this 80-20 as a standard, but in the few cases when we have a lot of data sets, we can use 70-30 as well. So for that, X test, Y test, X trend, Y trend. This kind of four sections we will gonna have when we are using test trend split. So firstly, let's split as X, DF dot drop survive axis S. Why we drop the survive column? Here for the X, the Y, which is survived column, is the resulting column which we need to analyze, which are the actual results which we get through our datasets. So we just separate the particular survived column for our Y. So here we drop the survived axis 1. Now as we see our head, there is no survived columns represents here. While we in the Y, there are only survived column here. So now we another use sklearn model selections. What exactly the sklearn model selection do? So the sklearn model selections actually imports the particular library which we knew or need in our ML project to test trend split. That is exactly in the name same test trend split. So sklearn model is very easy to learn. You go through it, you will definitely get better understanding of the different libraries it have. Now we use this function xtrain, xtest, ytrain, ytest. As I said earlier, using the test trend split xy, test size is 0.3. As I said, we can check our numbers, what we have exactly, and according to that we can change our test trend split to 70-30 or 80-20 ratio. But here we know the separations as a 80%, 20%, 30%, 70%, but in machine learning or in coding, we have to show it in the form of 1. So for 1, there is 0.3 as a test size, which we need to test, and the there is no train size written over here. It can be automatically deducted from 1, which is 0.7 as a train size. Random state. What does it mean, random state? Shuffling. Our total means of the random state is shuffling. So when we go through the whole data sets, we need to shuffle our data sets for the better model creation. So this random states is the total number of shuffling which we required when we are using our test and trend split. So if it here written 42, most of the time it here 42 or 101 or 121. These are the standard shuffling which most of the people use. You can write any numbers you want, but if you go through the standards, the model will be much better created. So here we use 42 as the dataset is not that much big, so we can just have to shuffle our datasets 42 times. That's why I written here 42 in the random states. We import logistic regression. Why here we import logistic regression? As I explained earlier that in ML we have two types, supervised, unsupervised. In supervised we have linear, logistic, classifications and all. So what exactly the logistic regression do? When we have a choice of yes, no, true, false, 0, 1, when we have only two choice through which we go through in our results, that means the classification needs to be happen, and for that classification we need logistic regression. Logistic regression is used when we have only 2 point of sections to derive our results. So what is here our 2 point of sections? As we separate our survived column Y, in the survived column we get to see there is only two formats of results, 0, 1, or survived or not survived. So for this we here use the logistic regression. We name the logistic regression by creating an object as LR, logistic regression, the full form definitely. Now we fit our model. For fitting our model, we just have to write LR fit X train, Y train. Why we use the train values here? Because we firstly need to train our data, then we have to predict our data. So for the prediction we use the test data, and for the training we use the trained data. So trained data needs to be identified, X trained, Y trained. After the trained data happens, we just have to predict our whole data sets, that is X exactly. So when we predict, we get to see this kind of results. So definitely it is kind of manipulating, but when you see one by one, this shows the arrays of the prediction which the data sets taken as a test as true, false, means survived or not survived in that format. Then we can use the scatter plot to write here. This scatter plot shows that the value of y test and the predictions. Then for the matrix of classification report. So for the matrix of classification report, we again use the sklearn function, but particularly in the sklearn, we want to import from matrices. Matrices, we need the classification report. The classification reports have most of the functions which as recall, precision, f1 and the supports. And same with the confusion matrix. Most important is the confusion matrix part. What exactly the confusion matrix gives? The confusion matrix gives this kind of value which represents the main results of the y test and predictions. So this is how we make our main projects. So if we follow all these things, let me show you once again so you get to see each one by one. I just use this picture to represent it a much wider way. Firstly, you have to import all these libraries. Import the datasets, df.head, df.info, df.shape, df.isNull to check the null, .sum is null sum to check the complete is null sum, check the data type of age, null function in age, null values calculation, heat map, median of age, fill NA function here used to fill the vacant places in age. Same we check again null function in heat map. Same we do with the deck using mode. Check the value of mode as C0. Fill NA function to fill the deck. Again check the heat map. Same do with the embark. And now question now questions 3 of this main analysis. How many people survived? How many people survived are male and female? And how many persons are the solo passengers? After that, we categorize the value, categorical value into the numerical value need to change. For that, we use the get dummy functions to convert the objects into the numbers. And get dummy functions created a particular columns. After creating the columns, we just have to same do with the embark. We just have to concatenate that function and drop the other extra columns which we have. Same we need to do with the other. We can do it by using the encoding nominal and ordinal as well. With the class, with who, with adult male, with DAC, with E-town, alive, alone. Then we concatenate all of them, drop the extra columns, check the columns, and check the head of data frame. Test and split. Test and split, I drop the survived value for x and put the survived for y. Check the head of x and y. Import model selections from sklearn test and split. Use the test and split as the 70-30 ratio with the random state 42. sklearn linear model, import the logistic regression because for the Titanic we need logistic regression as a beta model. Fit the model using X train, Y train. Predict the X test after fitting the model. This what happens when we write out the predict. Draw a scatter plot for Y test and predict. sklearn matrix, import classification reports. We see the classification reports as a Y test and predict for it. Again import the sklearn matrices to import the confusion matrix and get to see the confusion matrix. This is all the overview of our projects which we made earlier right now. So if you also want to make more projects like this and want to know the details of each project, as this is the one of the basic project in machine learning, there are so many different projects as the hard disk analysis and feature engineering. There are so many other projects which we used to make in machine learning. If you also want to make these projects, you need to go through the project pro and learn more about this kind of projects. There are also so many templates which you can use for making your projects as well. Thank you for watching this video completely. I hope it gives you the brief idea about how you can make your first ML projects in starting, and also about what are the important factors which you need to know before making your first ML projects. Please visit Project Pro for making your knowledge more abroad in the field of machine learning. And if you also want to explore more new things, you must have to visit the Project Pro. Thank you.